Hi guys, welcome back to the old mill shed. I'm Jason, and today is the video that several of y'all have been waiting on. So this is Emmett. Emmett in particular is a 1953 Ferguson TO30. I am the third owner of this machine. It has been in this vicinity and in this community its entire life. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick overview of the machine as it was built. We're going to go over some of the pros and the cons of this particular piece of equipment. And a lot of what I'm saying about this machine will also apply to the 2N, 9N, and 8N Fords, as well as the TO20s of the Ferguson line. So this one does have the standard Continental Z129 engine, 129 cubic inches. That's 2.4 liters roughly for those of y'all from countries who have not put a man on the moon. Just kidding, guys. It's a 1-3-4-2 firing sequence. This one's been upgraded to a 12-volt machine, but the original one would have been 6-volt. The original ignition system was 6-volt. Positive ground. Since I've owned it, I have changed it over to 12-volt negative ground. It is a very, very simple machine. This is where you add your oil. It's where you check your oil. There is another dipstick in the back that we will look at here for checking the transmission and hydraulic oil. It all runs together to operate the 3-point lift. It's where you turn on and turn off your fuel. Clockwise turns it off, counterclockwise turns it on. This is your fuel filter. It's just a glass bowl. Your sediments float to the bottom of the bowl. About once a month or so, you just take it off, clear the trash out of it, put it back in, and you're good to go. The majority of your electrical system runs off of this here. Your positive wire from your battery comes down to this post. All of your accessories feed off of that post. This is the starter switch, which is actuated by the gear shift. That's a safety feature that the Fergusons had, so it cannot be in gear while it's being started electrically. Now you could use a hand crank, and theoretically it could have been in gear and take off and run over you. But if you're starting it from the operator station, or even standing beside the operator station, it couldn't be in gear and it couldn't run you over. So that was a really neat safety feature that these tractors had. None of this obviously is stock. We'll go over that later on. So we have skipped over the operator station. We will go back to that shortly. This is the 3-point hitch. You have an 1 3/8 PTO shaft that comes out of the back. Now from the factory, this would have been an 1 1/8. This was upgraded before I got a hold of it. The PTO does have to be running in order for the 3-point hitch to operate. This does not have live hydraulics or a live PTO. We will get more into that later. So I just run a cap over top of that PTO so nothing gets in it, protects the splines and everything. The top link attaches here. This is what controls the depth when you're using a ground contacting implement. If the implement hangs something, it pushes on this link, pushes a spring in, actuates a hydraulic valve inside, and will lift the arms up slightly to go over the obstacle. And then when the force is released, that spring pushes back, closes the hydraulic valves, and allows the implement to go back down to its predetermined depth. These are just check chains to keep the arms from getting into the tire. Your lift arms connect on each side of the transfer case in the back. And then there are two brackets underneath each axle that you can put anti-sway arms on. You'll see that more in the bush hog video. This is the leveling arm. What this does is crank the right hand arm up or down so you can level an implement, or if you're plowing, to accommodate for one tire being down in the trench or a furrow while the other tire is not. Over on the right hand side of the machine, you have your brake pedal, which is actually operated with your heel. Your foot sits on top of this peg. You operate your brake and the clutch on the opposite side with the heel of your shoe. This is the right turning brake pedal. There's another one on the left side. There is the quadrant for raising and lowering the 3-point hitch. The dipstick for the transmission and hydraulic oil. It takes right at 6 gallons. I run a 1540, I believe it is, oil in it. I have found that to be a little on the thick side. Next time I do maintenance on them, I'm going to probably drop back to a 1040. For the winter time, it is way too thick. I think a 5 weight is going to be too light, so we want to try a 10. Here is the oil fill for your transmission and hydraulic system. It all uses the same fill place. The drain is on the lower side, and here is the plug to fill your steering box, your steering gear. It is mechanical steering. There is no power steering on these models. Here is your throttle lever. You pull back to increase engine RPM. Air inlet is here, and this does have an oil bath filter, and we will actually get into this in the maintenance video. Now this has all been modified. This is not like it was when it was new. Originally this came with a down path exhaust pipe. It came down and went underneath the right running board, but it was tough trying to work with that because all the exhaust gases be coming up in your face while you were trying to hook up an implement and anything. So this manifold and everything here is all of a different design. It's actually very similar to what goes on a TO35, and I just put a no-name off-brand muffler with a rain cap going up. It has a Marvel Schiebler updraft carburetor, which means your air comes down at the bottom and your fuel air mixture goes up. The intake and the exhaust manifold is all cast into one piece, so you can't replace one without replacing the other. And this is just a plug that's used for vacuum tuning the engine, which we will see more in the maintenance video. Lower down on the right hand side of the engine, you have the engine oil filter. It does use a cartridge style. We will get into that more in the maintenance video. And the original 6-volt generator has been swapped out for a 1-wire General Motors 12-volt alternator. Now, a lot of people incorrectly will put an A-section belt on these machines. That is incorrect. You are supposed to run a B-section belt. It's a little bit heavier duty, and it is what this tractor, with this machine, actually all of these machines were designed for. The Fords may run an A-section. I'm not really familiar with their setup on this. Everyone I've ever seen has had an A-section belt, but for Ferguson's, a B-section is the correct belt to run. This is your throttle and governor linkage assembly. So when you pull back on the throttle, it has a governor in here to keep you from over revving the engine. The engine coolant and fuel is pretty straightforward. You have your radiator up front, 7.5 pound cap on it. Your thermostat is actually in the upper hose right here. So to change it out, you have to take these 3 or 4 screws out, take your toolbox off, undo your hose clamp, and then your thermostat is right there. And then it just has just a standard old gas tank up top. It's just low tech, no baffles, no nothing. And of course just your cap. Make sure the caps on these do have a vent hole in them, otherwise it will form suction as the gas level goes down and you'll starve your carburetor for fuel. Back at the operator station, controls are very simple. Like stated before, here is your throttle control. Pull back to give the engine more power. Forward takes it down to idle. You have your choke here. Of course, air intake. Your oil pressure gauge is over on this side. Here we go. Here's a much better view of the operator station. So you have your throttle control here, choke. Here's your ammeter. When you're converting from 6 volt to 12 volt, remember to reverse the wires on your ammeter because you're going from a positive ground to a negative ground. And then your water temperature gauge, ignition switch, light switch, and one I added below here operates my 12 volt power to my 7-pin in the back of the machine, which we'll see here shortly. Here is the brake and parking brake assembly. Basically, your parking brake, you just press the brake down with your heel as hard as it'll go. Take your finger and move this paw forward, and that locks the brake down, engaging the parking brake. Now, there's a thing that's known as the Ferguson stomp, and everybody that owns these machines does it, whether they realize it or not, and it's how you get the parking brake off. Let me demonstrate it. Every time you see someone operate these machines, you'll see them stomp their right foot very shortly after you get on the machine. And that's what they're doing. They're releasing the parking brake. Now there is a company out now that makes a spring that hooks on this lever, and it's got a like a lever that will either engage or disengage this paw for you. So when you get up on it, you just flip that lever back, and as soon as you touch it, it'll disengage the paw. You don't have to stomp the brake to kick that lever back off of it. Alright, so the pros and cons of these machines. We'll go over the pros first. The pro is they are extremely reliable. These things are built like tanks. They're extremely simple. You don't have to be of very large stature to run these machines. My kids can run this thing. It's got enough power. You can pull a 2-bottom plow if the soil isn't like clay. Around here I can pull a 16-inch single bottom plow, and I mean it walks on with it. If the soil has been plowed before and it's not tightly packed, I can pull a 2-bottom 12 or 2-bottom 14. Haven't tried a 216, but it would probably pull it just fine. I can pull a 5-foot bush hog. I have a 9-shank vertical tillage machine. It's I think it's 5 feet wide. Pulls it no problem. I use it to drag firewood out. Now you're not dragging 20-foot logs 2 feet in diameter with it, but something use common sense. It'll serve you well. Parts are extremely cheap. I rebuilt the engine, went through the transmission, rebuilt the hydraulic pump, new PTO shaft, bearings. I was out less than $1,400, and this was 2 years ago. And that included having the head work done at a shop in Lynchburg. With that, there are some cons. Mostly being this machine does not have live hydraulics or live PTO. So if your PTO has to be running in order for the hydraulics to work, so you step on the brakes, your hydraulics quit working. I mean, step on the clutch, your hydraulics quit working. And the other one being that if you want to run something like a bush hog or like a 3-point chipper or something like that, you need to have an overrunning clutch, which we will cover more in the bush hogging video, which may actually be out before this video comes out. I haven't figured out which one I'm going to release first yet. And what that does is the inertia in the machine as it builds up, if you stop the PTO, it allows this to keep turning and this ratchets around so the PTO can supply power. But if the machine or the implement that it is powering starts running faster, or you go to stop the machine, it won't transfer power back in through your PTO shaft and, you know, drive you through a fence or tear something in the machine up. And actually on those overrunning clutches, even more modern tractors, I still put them on there as a fail-safe. Some of the other cons are it still has points for the time being, so you need to know how to set up points. It is a gasoline tractor. Diesel tends to give you more torque, and it's only 6.5 to 1 compression. And I found this out, any of y'all follow my Instagram post already know this. I had a load on this tractor and I was going down the hill and the load got to push me. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing when I loaded it, and the engine did not have enough compression to hold me back. So all in all, you know, it's probably not as great as some of the more modern tractors, but you're also not paying $20-some thousand for it. I picked this one up for, I think it's $2,200 almost 20 years ago, and I have put very little into it since. So let's talk about some of the modifications that I have done to this machine since I bought it. So first thing you're going to notice when you walk up to this machine is this is not an OEM bumper. In fact, whoever put this on, all this weight hanging off the front end is why the front axle and the front axle bushing needs to be replaced. And we're going to cover that in the future. As supplied from Ferguson, there were power weights that went down into the inside of the rim of the front tires. It came in 2 sections, and they bolted in right here around the spindle. You can see the holes form right here. And each half of the pie weighed between 35 and 40 pounds. I'm not entirely certain of the weight. So that would give you between 70 and 80 pounds of unsprung weight on the front of the tractor for each tire. So if it was 40 pounds a half, then you've got 160 pounds up front, which probably still isn't as much as that bumper weighs, but it put plenty of weight on the front of the tractor to keep it from standing up. And it didn't transfer all that weight through that bushing unnecessarily. It was just all on that tire, and it was stayed on the ground. The second thing you will notice are these big honking headlights. Now, I bought these at Harbor Freight. I don't even know if you can still get them there or not. And they are a sealed beam halogen headlight. Now, they are 12 volt. They are fairly bright, but they pull a lot of amperage. So I'm looking at changing these over to LEDs. I've already changed my rear red light to LED, and I have an LED work light on order with an integrated switch. So the original lights are just little bitty things, 6 volt, weren't very bright. I mean, like a cheap flashlight. It was about all they would do. But in the time that this machine was built, that was about the best they had. The second modification that I've made to this machine, and it's probably been the most substantial, is I pulled the original coil off and replaced it with an internal resistor epoxy filled coil. I got some from some hot rod shop. Being epoxy filled and not oil filled, it works better for those coils that are mounted sideways like this. Oil-filled coils do not like to be laid on their side. They like to be straight up and down. So I'll add a link to this in the descriptions. Doing that allowed me to run a larger gap on my spark plugs. So I'm running like a 40 thousandths gap on my spark plugs. On those, this particular engine likes the Autolite 3116s. Before I rebuilt the engine, it wouldn't run those. I have worked on 5 or 6 of these machines fairly regularly, and every last one has its own little quirks of what it likes and what it doesn't like. Once I put a hotter coil on them, a lot of those quirks go away. And almost out of the 6, including this one that I work on, I think all but one has the Autolite 3116 plugs in it, gapped at 40. They run great. I did bump up to the 7mm wires, and these are copper clad wires. So if you have any kind of radios, anything around it, you're going to hear it in there, but these machines just really like that. The other big upgrade that I did has to do with the electrical system. When I first got it, there were no fuses in this thing anywhere. Maybe the light switch that was on it might have had a glass fuse in it. I changed it over to the more modern fuse. This lower one here operates my headlights and tail lights and work light, and this one right here operates my 12-volt circuit, which we will look at more later. The other two things, well, because it's one thing, it's just 2 of them, is I got these switches here from plowboy.com. I believe that's the name of it. I'll put a link in the description for these as well. And these are very heavy duty switches, and they got a good feel to them. They'll handle any of the power that I'm putting through them, and they just look good on this machine. And I also upgraded to a new ignition on this. It uses the old 2-prong key. And I just, when I rewired the tractor, I just decided to upgrade all my switches at the same time. Upgraded the wires to heavier gauge. I had it on hand. All my connections are soldered, and even then they're in waterproof boxes. Just go ahead, if you're doing something like this, even if you're using crimp connectors, a lot of people say don't solder them. And I've heard arguments both ways. Yeah, it's fine to solder them. No, don't solder them. You create a brittle point. I mean, I get it. But I've never had a soldered joint corrode on me and quit working when I'm a half mile from home, over on the back side of the land. Going back on the left-hand side of the tractor behind the operator station is my 7-pin. Now, I have a 16-foot trailer that has a 7-pin on it, and the way I have this hooked up, now I don't have electric brakes on this tractor. I have considered trying to hook some up, but I don't know where I would put it. But I can run my lights on my trailers, both of my road trailers. If I wanted to hook up a strobe temporarily, I could get a 7-pin. They're cheap. Plug it in, pull out my lower switch, the one that's underneath the light switch, and operate that. I have a sprayer that runs on a 12-volt motor. Instead of having to turn back around and flip that little flimsy switch, it came off and on. Off and on it came with it. I just have a 7-pin hooked up to that, so when I'm running it, I can just use my switch under the dash to turn it off and on. I almost didn't put it on, but it's actually turned out to be one of the more handier upgrades I've done to this machine. This is probably the most useful upgrade I have done to this machine. Now, as it was supplied from the factory, you just had draft control. The positional control did not come out till a few years later with the introduction of the TO35. Now, this unit here is from Red Rock Manufacturing, and again, I will add a link in the descriptions. And what it does is it adds a feedback loop to the quadrant to mimic positional control for when you're using a boom or a carry-all or something of that nature. For heavier equipment like my bush hog, I still use it in draft control mode and just use my chains to hold it to the height that I want. But to use it in positional control, you just take this little arm. There's a little arm it hooks to your quadrant control lever. It's got a little Carter key, and while it's hooked up, it operates as though it's positional control. If you want to go back to draft control, you pull that little Carter key out, slide your arm out, and then you're back into draft control for ground contacting implements. So what set the Ferguson tractor apart from all the other tractor manufacturers out there, and everybody says, well, it looks like the back end of a Ford. Well, there's a reason for that. When Harry Ferguson, developed the system, he and Henry Ford had a handshake agreement that the Ford N series would run the Ferguson system. And a lot of them refer to them as Ford Fergusons, and you know, it's a whole thing. But this system here, and it's still in use today, it's actually the standard, really made tractor safety go up. It found a way to keep the front of the tractor down. All of a sudden you didn't have old horse-drawn implements that still needed a person on them to operate them while another man operated the tractor. It really propelled the farm tractor into the modern age that it is in now. These are kind of considered Generation 1 tractors. The 35 and some of the other tractors out there really started with the, when they got to live hydraulics and live PTOs and all, really was another jump forward. But one thing on this tractor I do like, and most modern tractors have it, is I can actually put a drawbar underneath this thing. It's called a swinging drawbar. And I'll show you how that goes together. Okay, so here we are. I'm laying on the ground underneath the back of the tractor. And this is where the drawbar goes. Now, I've always heard this called a swinging drawbar. That may or may not be right. But all you have to do to put a drawbar on here, so you want to pull a trailer, is you have your standard linch pin here. You just undo it. You pull it forward, and the pin drops out in your hand. If you look at this pin, you just got a hole in it, 7/8 pin, little head on it. Now I'm going to slide the drawbar in, and I'll be back because I can't do it all with one hand. Okay, so I've got the drawbar going through the rear bracket. It's sitting up here, and you got several positions that you can put it in. Usually, if I'm running the trailer that's made for the tractor, it just has a pipe for a tongue. It's not like an A-frame or anything. I'll run it all the way forward to keep my turning radius down. But if I'm running my 16-footer or my the little utility trailer that's actually made for the road. They have a real wide A-shaped tongue. I will slide the drawbar back. It gives me about an extra 8 inches so I don't hit it when I'm turning. And I'll try to do this with one hand. I'm sorry if it gets shaky. But all you do is just line the hole up. Take your pin. Stick it up in there. And then slide your linch pin back through. And there it is with the linch pin back in. But what happens if this drawbar is too low? Well, there's another drawbar that we have at our disposal that we can use. I want to take this back out. I'm going to throw the other one on and show you how that works. Okay, so here's a drawbar that actually goes on the 3-point hitch itself. Now normally if I'm running this, I'm going to have a stabilizer bar in here to keep it centered. But all this does is go in through your lift arms. And then you have an anti-rotation piece here. So if you used to hook, say, a ball into one of these holes or a chain hook or something, this won't just immediately rotate back, bust the hitch on your trailer, or something of that nature. Okay, so this tractor is 4 forward speeds. So it's basically your standard H pattern. You got first, second, third, and fourth. And then reverse is over and back. Now to start it, it's very simple. Just flip on your ignition. I doubt I need to choke as warm as it is, and you just push it up into the start position. Okay guys, so that was pretty much the video. Just kind of an overview of the machine itself. I know several of y'all was wanting to see the tractor. I know y'all hear me talk about him all the time. I'm actually shooting the bush hog video today, so that by the time you see this, the bush hogging video may already be out. So some of this might be a repeat for you. We're going to go over the general spring maintenance on the machine, as well as how to tune the engine. We're going to go through setting the points, vacuum tuning the engine, so those will be coming up as well. And as we do any of the repairs on the machine, we'll go through that as well. Any of y'all have one of these machines, even if it's like a 9N, 2N, or 8N Ford, or even if it's a 35 or anything, y'all have any questions on it, shoot me a message, leave me a comment down below, and I'll try to help you out on it. One thing I will tell you, a lot of the spare parts of these tractors are made in China. The American made parts cost a lot more, but in my experience they are worth it. I get all of my stuff from, not all, most of my stuff from Boone Tractor. I'm not sponsored by Boone. That's who I get my stuff from, and they've served me well. Another place you can get is old, like vintage hot rod shops, as far as the coil, the plugs, the distributors, the points. I mean, back in the 50s, a lot of stuff that was on this tractor was also on cars. So there's a lot of hot rod parts out there, at least electrically, that will work on this machine. Even the points off of a 250 Chevrolet. One time I was broke down. I had to go rob a set of points off my 71 Chevrolet to get myself going again until I could run to Alta Vista and get me a new set. But hope y'all enjoyed the video. Hope to see you soon. Like I said, I think the bush hog video might come before this one. If not, it'll be the one right after this one. So hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time here under the shed.